Welcome back to the corral. It's been a while since I rode the high country. I just got in. I had to chase the wolves out of the garden patch, and I used my wife's Winchester to get that job done. Let me put that down over here so I don't hurt myself. That gun is unloaded. It is safe to handle. Today we're going to talk about Westerns. Oh my God, that is shocking news. It's been a while since I've come back to the old homestead, and we're going to talk about 3 writers, 3 books, and they are all a lot of fun. First up, William McLeod Rain. I have discussed him before. He was born in 1871. He died in 1954. He was Zane Grey's #1 competitor. I don't know how they felt about that. I think it's quite obvious when you look at their careers that Rain was competing with Zane Grey. They had the same reprint publisher, and I'm a collector of William McLeod Rain just as I am with Zane Grey. And he's fun. Today we're going to talk about Beyond the Rio Grande. You'll notice how the cover, and I'll have a scan of this coming up, this has the WR, kind of like a ranch brand, a cattle brand on the books. This is common for the Grosset and Dunlap books. He was so popular, and in the back of his books you'll find advertisements for Zane Grey as well as his own books. You know, I don't know if the men ever corresponded. I really don't know. I don't recall ever reading that they did. I think that they lived worlds apart as far as their lifestyles, if you know anything about Zane Grey. William McLeod Rain, however, was born in London, and he was raised on a cattle ranch in Texas. So he has first-hand experience, whereas Zane Grey had some experience, but not quite in the same league. William McLeod Rain spent time with the Arizona Rangers, first-hand experience, and all of this. He began publishing before Zane Grey as well, I think, just before. So Beyond the Rio Grande is, what was the year of this one? This is 1931. And I should mention William McLeod Rain is best known for a book he wrote, he ghost wrote it, called El Dorado, Bringing the Law to the Mesquite, which was critical of Wyatt Earp. The material about Wyatt Earp in that book is, even today, when scholars look at that material, it's spurious material. I understand from other sources that William McLeod Rain wasn't a big fan of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp was familiar with this book, El Dorado, Bringing the Law to the Mesquite, and to the day Wyatt Earp died, I understand that he was upset that the book misrepresented him. So William McLeod Rain had some controversies involved in his early writing career. The rest of it is standard, old school, traditional horse opera, and that is a compliment. There's nothing wrong with these old horse operas. I collect them when I find them. They are generally not expensive. This one is okay. It's not his best. Look on the back here. I should have scanned this. Look on the back. You can see the number of his. This is an advertisement for Rain's books. And look at all the titles here that he has. I have quite a few of these. I don't have them all. So I look for these. Grosset and Dunlap, again, put out a lot of Westerns in the 30s and 40s. And I love to find them with the dust jacket. That's fantastic. So when you do it. So I have a lot. So anyways, let's get into this one. Beyond the Rio Grande, 1931. So this is about Lee Reynolds. This is a woman who is running the Lazy R Ranch. She's going to have a cattle drive from Arizona to Santo Cabrillo. Now, this book takes place in modern times, contemporary. There are automobiles in this book, so I'm assuming, no date is specifically given, but it was published in 31, so this is an early 30s modern Western with the traditional elements of old school historical Westerns. Very much like the Gene Autry movies. The Gene Autry movies introduced this idea of kind of a mix of modern with old. You know, in Roy Rogers too, you'll be watching their films, and then all of a sudden you'll see, you know, they're riding horses and the towns look old Western stuff, and then an automobile will pull up without explanation. That's a clue that they're setting the story in modern times in a Western town. they got away with it. The movies are entertaining. This book is like that, okay? Right at the beginning, you've got an automobile pulling up. So anyways, the conflict, these books are very traditional. The conflict is she's going to have a cattle drive to Santo Cabrito, and she hires an extra hand who's under a fake name. There will be some romance involved with him later on, and it's recycled plots. There's a conflict with other people. Somebody doesn't want her to succeed. It's always a type of pursuit and reconciliation with these horse operas, as they're called. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think this is a good book. It's not, I don't think it's Rain's best Western. I've read others that I like better than this. But it's okay, Listen to the back advertisement. I'm just looking at it and I realize I should read this. William McLeod Rain's dashing novels of frontier life. You can smell the saddle leather in these snorting Western yarns, for Rain was a cowboy himself once. And after the Spanish-American War, rode the plains with the Arizona Rangers. That is absolutely true, by the way. So the hiss of the branding iron and the music of spitting six-shooters are no strangers to him. And that's a great description of his Westerns, and they're all self-same, over and over again stuff, I do like him a great deal. Now, in this one, I have to tell you, there's a couple of interesting bits of trivia with this particular edition of this book. All right, but before I do that, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. The plots on these books. None of these three books have Western plots that are going to change your view of Westerns one way or the other. They are old school, so they can be considered a little trite at times, but they're standard plots, pursuit, reconciliation, there's romance, dash of romance. All of that is a staple for the Western during this period. There is very little difference today, really, when you think about it. So anyways, some trivia here. In this book, Rain makes reference to a quote by Sir Walter Raleigh, and I didn't flag the page, and I should have, because I want to read you the quote, but I have it in the other book. So here it is, and so this isn't it. This is a different one. This is a motif that he used before, the idea of quoting great literature, which is a linkage to a type of nobility. You'll remember that Zane Grey wrote a book called Knights of the Range. Okay, he was specifically linking that to a type of nobility, an idea of fair play and justice that would demonstrate the qualities of the heroic characters. That's not unusual for Westerns during this time, nor is it unusual today. So he did it here, and he quotes Sir Walter Raleigh, which is the famous quote is "Courage Stout," and this is a reoccurring plot device for William McLeod Rain. Courage Stout is also one of his books, Courage Stout, and the quote sets this off as well, and it is, if I can find it, that's right. Cowards fear to die, but courage stout, rather than live in snuff, will be put out. Sir Walter Raleigh. So William McLeod Rain, who is his own brand by now, is linking the characters and the motivations of the protagonist to a type of nobility. WR again on the title page here. He had his own brand. So anyways, just a little idea here. I wanted to mention that these Rain especially, Zane Grey did it too, but William McLeod Rain really recycled plots. And took these motifs and he used it here and then he would use it over here again. Not unusual. One last bit of trivia for this. Take a look at this. So previously, I mentioned probably about a year ago, I mentioned this book, When a Man's a Man by Harold Bell Wright. You'll note that Harold Bell Wright's classic book has exactly the same cover. Grosset and Dunlap did what publishers have done in modern times. They recycled their cover artwork. Great stuff. It's a great cover, too, for both books. This book is much better written, by the way. I have an episode out there. I think I posted a little bit about this book when I returned after being off of YouTube for about 7 months. And I was up at the cabin, and I had this up there with me. This William Bell Wright wrote a really fantastic book. This is not quite as good, but it's still worth your time. Using the same cover from Grosset and Dunlap. All right, that's William McLeod Rain. All right, a little bit about him. I just love collecting these books. The next one is a book that I had on my wish list, my want list, my avid book collector list for a very long time. And that's Gunsmoke in the Hills by Ray Palmer Tracy. This book on the market today, and I just looked it up earlier this afternoon. This book's in really good condition. This is a pretty high-grade copy, really, considering how old it is. Sells between $75 and $100. I've seen low-grade copies on eBay recently with a really beat-up dust jacket and obviously yellowing paper. That's fine, whatever. It's not a really easy book to find. This book came out in 1939. It's part of the Double D Westerns. I've talked about the Double D Westerns before. The Double D Western brand ran for decades with Doubleday. And I don't know, you don't see a lot of them on the aftermarket, so my assumption from talking to professional book dealers is that they had a low print run on a lot of them. And the early ones, of course, are highly collectible. So the Double D Westerns, and here you have some names on the back, they were big sellers. Is there a price in this? This is a $2 book in 1939. That's 1939. It's a bit of money. The cover is well known. I do not know who did this cover. I've seen various things on the internet about this book. This cover is well known, but I have not been able to pinpoint why. If anybody watching this episode knows why the Ray Palmer Tracy Gunsmoke in the Hills cover is so widely revered, please let me know details on that. I would like to know. Now, Ray Palmer Tracy was a good writer. I like him. I like this better than the last one. Now, I like William McLeod Rain. I collect him too, but Ray Palmer Tracy also I would collect. I do collect when I find them. I prefer the Grosset and Dunlap hardcovers, or this is actually a Double D from Doubleday. I prefer finding these books from the 30s and 40s with the dust jacket. That's just my thing. So let's talk about this book just briefly here. This is about Sandy Comstock, who enters Sunset Valley. Is that the perfect description of the Mythic West? Sunset Valley. How many heroes ride into Sunset Valley or Sunrise Valley or whatever it is? A mythic, beautiful idealism of the West. He's looking for land for his own cattle, his own cattle ranch, and he meets Connie Hartman, who is going to be his love. Dash of romance there. And there's a lot of going back and forth about the land. And the first two paragraphs, I thought, give you a good flavor of Tracy, who's not very well known today. I don't know a lot of collectors that look for him. But listen to this. Again, we're talking about the mythic West. This is not the real West. By the light of a brilliant full moon, Bally, the blaze-faced roan Sandy Comstock was riding, picked his way over the last stretch of the little-used mountain trail. He came out on a bald knob which thrust like a promontory into Sunset Valley. The big flat-backed cowboy pulled up and looked down into the remote, moon-silvered little cow empire set like a jewel among the towering mountains. Again, we have the mythic West. Deep satisfaction spread over his bronzed features as he registered his first glimpse of what he hoped proved to be his promised land. So right away they're setting the tone. Tracy's a good writer. A couple of his other books I've read. This is my favorite. It took me years to get my hands on this. Years! I mean, to get my hands on a good, higher grade copy like this for you book collectors, Yeah, there's not a lot of them out there, especially with these early double Ds. Even some of the later double Ds. The later double Ds did not have good artwork on some of the covers. I have some of them. They're just not all that great. I know I've covered them before. Good book. This is one of my favorite Westerns from this period, 1939, Gunsmoke in the Hills by Ray Palmer Tracy. Really a fine piece of traditional writing. Okay, one more. Now, excuse my little cough, I have a bit of a hackle here. Lawrence A. Keating I know nothing about. Nothing except Lawrence A. Keating. His real name was Clint Douglas. I have looked high and low for more information on Mr. Clint Douglas because as Lawrence A. Keating, he wrote some pretty good Westerns here and there. This is not quite in the same level of quality as William McLeod Rain or Ray Palmer Tracy. But good enough. When I see them, I would pick them up, but I don't know anything about the man. I've looked at genealogy websites. I looked at Find a Grave. I don't see anything about him, so I don't know. Again, if anybody knows anything about Lawrence A. Keating, who is really Clint Douglas, please let me know. I'd be interested in learning more about that for my own files. Now, the cover, beautiful cover on this one, and this is why I bought this one, by the way, because this is a $20 book, and I love the cover. Grosset and Dunlap at their best. The cover was by Eddie McMahon, and how do I know that? Because he signed it right there, and that's how I know. All right, so this is a 1933 book. This is also not easily found. I think this is a scarce book as well. I love the Grosset and Dunlap. I should have scanned this. I didn't scan the back. They are advertising their own brand of Westerns right here, so you can take a look at that. And they have the crack of guns, the thunder of the stampeding herd, the squeal of maddened broncos, breathtaking action, high adventure, bad men, outlaws, gunmen, gallant romances. Here are magnificent stories by the most famous storytellers of the West, written in gun smoke and punctuated with pistol shots. And you have advertisement for books by Zane Grey, William McLeod Wayne, Frank Austin, W.C. Tuttle, he was a good writer too, Ray Norton, Lawrence A. Keating, again, Evan Evans, and then more Zane Grey, and who else would you recognize? Anybody? Eugene Cunningham, good writer. And Peter Field, good writer, here and there. So I just love the way they promoted the Western in this. All right, so this book, again, I bought it because of the cover. I am familiar with Keating's style. It's okay. He wrote numerous novels. This is okay, actually. Spence Hartley has a contract for remounts, for horses, for the U.S. Army post in Fort Lincoln. And a guy named Hoss McCumber had won that contract previously, and now he's pissed off at Spence Hartley. Poor Spence Hartley is going to have some problems. Very simple plot, again, pursuit and reconciliation with a dash of romance. All of those are evident here, and this classic Western from yesteryear with this magnificent and beautiful cover artwork on all of these books share that distinction of having just really great cover artwork. This one, of course, shares the cover with another book. I just get a kick out of that. And you know what? This is a great cover, for both editions. Anyways, just a quick look back at some books. Now, The Courage Stout, I mentioned this because of Sir Walter Raleigh, William McLeod Rain. I didn't scan this, but this cover's okay. And here are more Rip Snorton Westerns, Grosset and Dunlap on the back, with a list of their authors and titles. Taking a look back at some of the horse operas from yesteryear on the old range, great entertaining material if you should see any of this. Pick them up. William McLeod Rain is widely available in a lot of vintage paperbacks. He was widely reprinted even long after his death. His books were still put out there because he was popular. And he was a good writer. I hope you enjoyed that look back at the Mythic West. I have rambled on yet again. Stay well, stay happy. Feed your brain. Read a book.